They say monsters don't exist, but my sister met one in our kitchen. He slammed her fragile body against the fridge like she was weightless. Then without hesitation drove his knee into her face. Bones cracked, blood spilled, and she crawled, trembling, broken, not to safety, but to a phone. She had one number memorized, mine. The storm outside was a beast, wind screaming, thunder snarling, but nothing compared to the storm inside me. I drove through it, 5 hours straight, no music, no pause, just my headlights slicing through blackness and a promise echoing in my chest. Hold on, Leia. When I reached home, my mother opened the door as if nothing happened. A calm sip of tea, a colder voice. You're overreacting. It's just a scratch. But what I saw behind her still haunts me. Leia, 18 years old, fragile from cerebral palsy, but brilliant beyond belief. She remembered everyone's birthdays, quoted Shakespeare, and still smiled through pain most people would collapse under. But that night, she wasn't smiling. She was bleeding, swollen, bruised, and trying to lie for the man who did this to her. Grant Walker. The name still makes my skin crawl. My stepfather wasn't loud or wild. He was worse, controlled, manipulative, dangerous in the way snakes are. Always polite, always poised, and always planning. When Mom married him, I left, but Leia stayed, and I carried that weight every day. The guilt of choosing freedom over her safety. My phone had rung earlier that day. Twice. I ignored it. Third time I answered. Static. A whisper. Dana, help me. He broke my nose. I didn't clock out. Didn't think. Just ran. And now, standing there, watching her flinch as he passed the door, I knew I couldn't leave again. That night, I sat by her side. She told me about the names he called her. Parasite, burden, worthless. How he dragged her out of bed. How he once held her head underwater and said she'd be better off drowned if she couldn't walk. And Mom, she called me dramatic. She said Grant wanted her to be strong. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I strategized. Next night, we sat at dinner like nothing had happened. Grant raised his glass. Still saving lives, Dana? I raised mine, one at a time. Mom smiled like we were in a Hallmark movie. Isn't this nice? All together again, like old times. I smiled too, but I was already plotting his end. Grant tilted his head, that fake smile never leaving his lips. So, planning to stay a while. I didn't flinch. Unless you have a problem with that. He chuckled to casual. No, just surprised. But I saw at the flicker of suspicion. That was all I needed. That night, while the house slept under a blanket of lies, I got to work. Tiny cameras, hidden lenses, professional-grade surveillance. One in the kitchen vent, another behind the living room portrait, and in Leia's room, a teddy bear with eyes that watched everything. I didn't sleep. I documented. I turned their house into a fortress of truth, and then I waited. It didn't take long. 3 days later there he was, dragging Leia across the floor, enraged over a coffee cup. She hit the tiles like glass, and he kicked the cup across the room like trash. 2 days after that, he slapped her hard for taking too long in the bathroom. Her face snapped sideways like she wasn't even human. Each video had a timestamp, each act, a digital witness. I shared the footage with 3 people. Claire, my best friend, a legal shark. Detective Morris, Domestic Abuse Division, hardened by horror. And Erica Tran, a journalist with a vengeance for stories that burn cities down. But I wasn't chasing justice anymore. I was hunting destruction. Then came Grant's birthday. The stage was set: balloons, wine, fake laughter, neighbors smiling, colleagues toasting. Even a city council member mingled like royalty had arrived. Mom wore pearls. Grant played king. And Leia, she stayed upstairs like a prisoner, locked away during a parade. I told her to rest, told her to trust me. The room buzzed with cheer, glasses clinking, music humming. Then I stood, tapped my glass. The room stilled. To Grant Walker I said, a man of charm and secrets. Faces turned, smiles wavered. A man who abuses the defenseless, who wears kindness like a costume. Dead silence. I walked to the TV, slid in a USB. Let me show you the man behind the mask. The first clip rolled. Gasps. A woman covered her mouth. Someone dropped a glass. A man muttered, "My God." And my mother? She clutched her pearls and whispered, "Dana, what have you done?" Grant lunged, his smile gone, monster exposed. But before he could reach me, His boss tackled him. The door burst open. Police swarmed in. I handed them everything: photos, videos, medical records. Leia's therapist's statement. They cuffed him in front of his audience. Right there, in his castle, in front of his queen. He didn't look angry. He looked defeated. The news exploded like wildfire. Community leader arrested for assaulting disabled stepdaughter. Erica's headline was everywhere. Mom was questioned. CPS investigated. She avoided prison but not punishment. Her name faded from donor lists. Friends vanished. Whispers followed her through every grocery aisle. She didn't lose freedom. She lost face. I gained legal custody of Leia. We left that house like survivors walking away from wreckage. Moved into a small apartment near my hospital. I cooked. She healed. We rebuilt life from ash and ache. She still had nightmares, but now I was there to hold her hand through them. One quiet evening, while we were folding laundry, she looked up at me. "Why didn't you come sooner?" she asked. That question shattered me more than any scream ever could. "I thought I was protecting myself," I whispered, "but I forgot to protect you." She was silent for a long time. Then she touched my hand. "You came when I needed you most," she said, "and that's enough." Mom sent letters, apologies wrapped in blame, excuses soaked in guilt. I never opened them. Leia burned each one without a word. Grant appealed his sentence. He failed, and once word spread in prison what he had done, he experienced the kind of torment only monsters earn. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive on its own. Sometimes it needs a guide, a push, a storm. And I was the storm. I still see that moment in my dreams. Not the violence, but the light in Leia's eyes when I appeared at her door. That silent promise. "You're not alone. Not ever again." And I kept it. To anyone living in silence, speak. To anyone watching from the sidelines, act. Because sometimes the difference between a grave and a second chance is a sister who refuses to walk away. The storm will pass, but what you do in the eye of it, that echoes forever. The end.